Yeah, I guess one of the things that I guess let's talk about gold real quick for a second, because the last time that we spoke, we talked about some of the miners that you were buying, and one of the things I talked about on my podcast yesterday, I want to touch back on that stuff also, but one of the things I wanted to ask you is here over the last week, even the last couple weeks, as the market has kind of, quote unquote, rallied a little bit back off of its recent lows, the metals market has also been bid. Gold and silver have, gold's caught a bid since the last time we talked. I think it closed the week at around 1350. Does the now I'm not an expert in precious metals, but it certainly, to me, when I see gold appreciating at the same time equities are appreciating, kind of telling me that the metals market isn't really buying this rally. Do you get that same type of impression?
Well, you have to remember, the storyline was that the Fed had done QE. They were going to, it had worked. They were going to exit QE via QT. They were going to raise rates. The cycle was going to get normalized. The economy was going to move ahead. The Fed would keep tightening, and we're all going to live happily ever after, and they were in control. And since the Fed was the only one that could do this, the dollar was going to go up. So rates were going to go up, the dollar was going to go up, the economy was going to be fine. And people believed that, and that's not exactly an environment that's going to induce you to want to buy gold. It's the reason to own gold is because the policies don't work. So then, as it became clear, and when the market broke in Q4, it became clear that the whole tightening cycle was probably behind us, and that's become more clear this year. And now we're not only on a tightening cycle, we're heading back towards an easing cycle. So that just kind of took the boot off the back of the gold market. That's just eliminating some of the things that would have been negative or would have not been an inducement to own gold. It's gold is going to really get a bid when people decide that these policies don't work, and it leads to, they start to understand that their purchasing power is being reduced, even though the central banks are claiming that there's not enough inflation. So there has to be, for gold to really go wild, I think, there has to be the realization that these central banks are trapped and that the policies don't work. If more people started to believe that, then you'd have you'll have a big move in the metals. The metals are moving not because the economy is weak. It's because what the economy weakness means the central bank policies will be. And then there's the trade war, tweets and rumors that wash through as well. But at the end of the day, the precious metals are basically an insurance policy against the idiots that are running the central banks.
Well, that's what I said on my last podcast too. Is if you own the precious metals, you almost kind of like seeing Jerome Powell and these guys kind of flail. Well, we don't really know what inflation is. We don't really know anything. You
well,
kind of kick back and enjoy that.
I would much prefer to have sane people running the central bank.
Sure.
And not have to own precious metals.
Well, what are the odds of that?
There's a train wreck ahead. Somewhere in the next decade, we're going to have a bad 5 or 10 years to pay for all this crap, and the people that are younger are the ones that are going to have to pay for it, because then we've got this looming liability transfer payment problem that's going to be, I think, how old are you, Chris?
I'm 36.
Okay, so I have a couple of daughters that are just about your age, a little younger. I mean, your guys' generation is going to have to pay for all these problems, and the perverse thing is, well, all the kids, your kids, adults your age are not you necessarily, but a lot of them are worried about global warming and a lot of things that they can't do anything about, that they really can't change. The dialogue about how these promises are going to be met, where you guys are going to have to pay people that are my age and older, the money with which to retire and have health care benefits. It's going to be a big problem, and no one is it doesn't seem like people in the younger generation have any clue that this is going to happen. If they did, they'd be more worried about it than some of the things that seem to matter so much.
Yeah, and eventually that's what's going to happen if you don't have your head wrapped around exactly what's going on one way or another, you're going to wind up paying for it. And
and eventually in this even we say eventually because we don't know what the timing is, but
right.
I want to say the timing is not, we're not going to get another 5 years of this. I mean, this whole period is on borrowed time. And when the stock market cracks, and then we can talk about, okay, what does it look like? Then you can start to get a bead on what comes next. I mean, this is we're in the 8th and a half, 9th inning of this QE cycle, and what comes out on the other side when market cracks will be when we'll start to determine how long we get away with these crazy policies. It could turn out it's another year, or it could be 3 years or 4 years, but I don't think it's going to be 5. But we really can't even make a guess at it till the Fed comes off the bench and comes with their next program, which will only happen. The people that are talking about the S&P put, what they don't realize is they only get that if they have to take a bunch of pain to get there. And they think they can take the pain, but when the pain's being administered, they change their mind. And then it feeds on itself. It's like the old Mike Tyson quote, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right?
Yep, exactly. I always say that. I think you're 100% right.
Well, it's true. It's true. I mean, when things are going well, you can say, well, tough times, I'll deal with it. And then you get into tough times, and the market grinds on you until you give up.
Sure.
And it gets you. As a friend of mine who's a very, very talented trader always says, the price will force your hand.